Did we just lose?
Hey there, thank you for tuning into Duck Breaks. Chris here with a very unfortunate breaking news video. So it's basically over. We've kind of lost because if you're not aware of what's going on, essentially what happened this morning is that at 8 a.m. Pacific time, LEGO and Bricklink collaborated to release a new batch of A-Fold designer program sets. Out of 7 sets in contention, only 5 of them were going to be made into actual sets based on which 5 were the first to be funded. So the sets in the running were, of course, Legend of the Bionicle, which is the one I think a lot of us Bionicle fans are rooting for. We have a Castle in the Forest, which is a homage to classic LEGO Castle. We have a fishing boat, a Wild West working safe, the Kakapo bird, a particle accelerator, and the Pursuit of Flight, both of the final 2 being moving kinetic LEGO sculptures. So really it was a matter of which 5 were the first to receive 3,000 orders. So the maximum order limit was 5 per person. Every person could order 5 copies of the same set. And it was basically just a race to see which of the LEGO themes would be more popular than the others and which one would sell out the fastest. So when I made a lot of news videos on this, and especially when the contenders were first revealed, I knew it was going to be a tough race between Castle and LEGO Bionicle. Knowing the popularity of LEGO Castle, heck, I personally love LEGO Castle. I was one of the first to pre-order that castle as well because I think it looks amazing. So I knew it was going to be a race between those 2. What I certainly did not expect was that it wasn't going to be much of a race at all. And that's because Bionicle has officially, as of the time of this recording, I've been monitoring it throughout the day for the past several hours, Bionicle has lost because 5 projects have been fully funded. They've reached the limit to be made into sets, and Bionicle came in 6th place, just ahead of the particle accelerator in terms of votes. So Bionicle 2021 is not going to be made because people didn't buy it. What's very surprising to me about this is that when the LEGO Ideas results first were released, when this whole Ideas set was up for contention for LEGO Ideas, there was a massive negative outcry amongst the community. I could see so many people complaining and yelling and whining and going to LEGO saying, why didn't you make the Bionicle Ideas set? And this is why. Because clearly people are not willing to actually put their money where their mouth is and purchase the set themselves. So this is kind of a very unfortunate turn for Bionicle fans, for people who just wanted to see Bionicle back in total. And I wanted to take this video to address a few questions, comments, and maybe some misconceptions that have been going around the community, at least stuff that I've seen in the comments of my previous video about the live updates of Bionicle and how it was doing in the competition, and kind of where we go from here, especially with the whole 20th anniversary LEGO poll hanging over our heads, that Bionicle was first place in the first round of that poll, but at this point, it's basically not going to be made into the set because LEGO can see with their own eyes. They'd be stupid not to make Castle. Castle sold out in the first 30 minutes that it was up. So there were 5,000 people, 5,000 orders of LEGO Castle in the first 30 minutes. It took Bionicle several hours to just make it to the 50% line, which was 50% of 3,000. Not even 50% of 5,000, 50% of 3,000. So that's like 1,500 purchases. So the first thing I want to get out of the way is an explanation for why I think that this didn't go as well. And I think that this came as a big surprise to me. It might be a surprise to you as well, but upon thinking back and considering it, I think I can think of a few reasons as to why this wasn't nearly as popular as many of us were expecting and hoping. So the first thing and the first major thing to discuss here is that obviously this is a system set. And what I personally was hoping was that the popularity of the Bionicle brand would be strong enough to make people who only just cared about Bionicle for the story, maybe they only cared about it for the construction buildable figures, to actually want to go out and support Bionicle as a theme. But I think the big issue is that even just after reading a ton of comments on my posts, comments publicly, not just in this community, but just kind of publicly in the whole sphere of Bionicle, community members spread across, it seems like the fan community was pretty split on this set. And the reason being is that obviously many Bionicle fans don't care about system at all. And that's not a problem. I totally understand liking one thing versus another, and a vast majority of Bionicle fans really only cared about the buildable figures or the construction figures. So if they saw this as a system set, they were simply like, well, I don't want it, it's system. The other thing is that since it was so expensive, $120, despite having a very fair price per part ratio, as people have pointed out, this was priced very well for the amount of pieces that are included. That is a high number. $120 is more expensive than many of the other items on this list, and that could have been the defining factor that caused people who wanted to see Bionicle back, but weren't really interested in LEGO system, maybe only wanted to see construction builds. Paying $120 for something you don't like is something that I can understand why people wouldn't want to do. If you're not a general LEGO system fan, if you only care about construction, paying $120 for a LEGO system set is something that's kind of a high ask, and I can totally understand that. It'd be the same thing as asking a system purist to say buy a $120 construction buildable figure or whatever, something like that. So I do think that that was one of the big defining factors as to why this didn't do as well as a lot of people were hoping, but there is one thing I do want to get out of the way, and that's something that was really disappointing just to me personally, is that to me there's been a lot of fan outcry, right, for LEGO to bring back Bionicle. A lot of people have been campaigning LEGO, we want to see Bionicle back. Bring it back, we want to see it. But really this was the first time where LEGO made it so that you could vote with your wallets. If you wanted to see Bionicle back, you can literally pay right now. The set is available for you to purchase if you want to see it back. And again, this comes back to the whole thing that maybe people don't like the build. Maybe people don't care about system and they just want the action figures. But this was really the only feasible way that LEGO could test the waters for Bionicle's return. You see, construction doesn't exist anymore in LEGO's mold repertoire. Outside of a few one-off pieces here and there, mostly used in system mechs, there are no CCBS parts that are currently in circulation, the latest form of buildable systems. You couldn't actually build a construction set because CCBS simply does not exist as LEGO's part catalog anymore. The molds have basically been destroyed. It's not 100% confirmed, but given that they haven't appeared in a single set since the last construction set all the way back in 2018, I think it's pretty safe to say that CCBS is basically dead. Now, obviously, they're not going to bring back any of the old destroyed molds for Bionicle as well, for G1, because that would make no sense. They were objectively much more feeble, could crack easier than CCBS, and if CCBS is gone, then those are definitely gone as well. So really, if LEGO wanted to test the waters for a return for Bionicle, this was the only feasible way to do it. Sure, maybe if this was a buildable action figure, things would have gone differently. But honestly, it wasn't, and that is not really LEGO's fault. They were just working with what they have. If you were someone running LEGO as a company, as a corporate decision, it wouldn't make sense to, say, bring back a ton of old molds. That's a huge amount of cost that goes into this, because there's so many unique and specialized molds for Bionicles. It doesn't make sense to bring back any old molds or something like this. If they want to test the waters to see if, well, G2 didn't do so well, but maybe there's a lot of other factors to that that wasn't necessarily the fans' fault, like the story, a lot of other marketing issues and whatnot, maybe we want to give it another try as LEGO. And let's see how well people respond to a system set that's Bionicle, just to see how strong the IP is. Because if this set succeeds, then that means that people are still willing to buy Bionicle in any form it is. And that would have made it a lot more likely that LEGO would be willing to invest in new molds for either CCBS as a return or an entirely new construction system. Because if people were willing to actually pay for a Bionicle set that wasn't even a construction figure, then that means that the brand is strong enough to stay alive and that people want to see more of the IP. So as LEGO, then I would have been like, okay, if this set succeeds, then maybe we can kind of look into bringing it back as a full-on theme. But not only did the set not make first place, it didn't make second or third, it didn't even make fifth. This set was one of the worst selling sets in the entire program that just ran over the course of today. And it's a clear message to LEGO that people are not too interested in the Bionicle IP anymore. Now, do I personally believe in this message? Absolutely not. But from a marketing standpoint, you have to look at the numbers and say, LEGO Castle was a blockbuster seller. And this is nothing against LEGO Castle. I mean, I love LEGO Castle. I own basically all the LEGO castles, and I will continue to support the LEGO castle theme. And actually, I'm incredibly overjoyed that Castle sold out as fast as it could, because that shows a sign to LEGO that people want LEGO Castle back. Heck, I want LEGO Castle back, so I'm so happy about that. But it also shows to LEGO that people are not willing to pay for Bionicle today. In any way, shape, or form, that's the message that they're going to receive from this, and that is incredibly disappointing to see that happen, especially after so many people were very viciously angry. I'm talking people were so mad that LEGO chose a typewriter, Seinfeld, and Home Alone as the ideas picks over Bionicle. Man, people were furious that day. Everyone was complaining that, oh, how could LEGO forsake the anniversary of one of their most classic themes? The theme saved LEGO. Why won't they do this? And then LEGO makes the set available. I mean, you could buy the set and no one wants to buy it. So did LEGO make the right decision in not making this an idea set? Absolutely, because I can almost guarantee you the typewriter is selling better, Seinfeld will sell better, and Home Alone will sell way better, just going off of the results today. If you asked me that question before today, I would have said that LEGO made a mistake. I would have said that there was enough demand for a Bionicle system set for it to make a return, and they made a mistake in not making an idea set. But clearly the analysts at LEGO know what they're doing, because y'all had your chance to get this set today and to show LEGO that you actually want to see the set made and to see Bionicle back, and unfortunately as a community it didn't happen. So to me that's quite disappointing, and I'm sorry to come across as a bit of a negative tone in this video. Usually I'm very positive about LEGO, but personally I was very excited to see the set built. I'm very happy for all the other sets that actually were produced as well. I think all of them are very deserving of it. The Kakapo, which was the bird that Bionicle was kind of competing against in the final run, is a very cute build. I will certainly be enjoying the set when I get it myself. I just kind of wish that Bionicle fans were maybe a little bit more willing to accept something that might not be their cup of tea, but could show LEGO a clear sign that we want the IP back. And look, this is definitely not an attack for anyone who chose not to buy the set, who may be a Bionicle fan because you don't like LEGO system and you only want the construction figures. I totally understand that, and I respect that decision. It's definitely your money, it's your choice, it's all good. I'm just disappointed as a whole that unfortunately there weren't enough of us Bionicle fans who were interested in it for the story and who wanted to just see the IP back again to actually make a difference in the voting rounds. So definitely not trying to disparage one group in particular over another. If you only are interested in this, that's totally all good, and I totally understand your decision. I can definitely see where you're coming from. I'm just, again, sad that Bionicle didn't make it. And lastly, the other point I just wanted to make here is I've been seeing a lot of discussion on this online. A lot of people are saying and trying to blame LEGO for having some technical difficulties during the ordering of this project, saying that the site continued to crash. They tried to order, but they couldn't, and they're saying that, oh, this project only didn't make it because people just tried to order it and gave up. And to that I say, well, obviously Castle had the same problems of technical difficulties, but that didn't stop that from being fully funded. It didn't stop people from fully funding Pursuit of Flight, the Wild West Safe, the Fishing Boat, and the Kakapo Bird. All of those were funded despite there admittedly being some technical issues, particularly around just when it first opened. There's a lot of strain on the Bricklink website. Personally, I was a little bit scared that it was going to crash myself, but I personally experienced those issues for all of the projects, not just Bionicle. It wasn't that Bionicle was the only one that had technical issues. All of them, again, were on an even playing field here. So it is unfortunate to see that. So where exactly does this leave us from here? So a lot of people have been asking, well, what about the LEGO Ideas 90th anniversary fan vote? So in case you're not aware of what exactly that is, LEGO earlier last year ran 2 rounds of voting, one for essentially choosing from a large number of themes which theme would they want to be commemorated in a large direct-to-consumer set next year to celebrate the history of LEGO. So that was one round. Bionicle won that first round. So that was really exciting because a lot of people went out and voted. Of course, you didn't have to pay money to vote, but a lot of people went out and voted. So that was maybe a sign that Bionicle is pretty popular. But the big problem with that was that LEGO split up a lot of the other sub-themes in that very first vote. So LEGO Castle was split into Forest Men, Black Falcons, Crusaders, and whatnot, which I feel was really unfair for Castle. It would be like splitting Bionicle into Toa Mata, Toa Inika, Toa Mari, Baraki, Paraka. There's just too many choices to choose from, and LEGO Castle fans were pretty split. So they fixed that in the second round of voting, which I actually appreciate. I think it was the right thing to do to consolidate it to Space, Pirates, Castle, or Bionicle. And the results of that second poll are unknown. We will not find out who won until the set itself is announced. So if there was any hope for Bionicle being chosen for that, being made into an anniversary set, that's just probably not going to happen at this point. You can probably take Bionicle off that list because LEGO saw just how well Bionicle performed in an environment where you could have the opportunity to spend money for a new Bionicle set in 2021, and it performed abysmally. It was really bad. So making smart financial decisions, executives at LEGO are definitely going to look at this and say, if they're not willing to get that one Bionicle idea set that they were campaigning and continuously begging us to release, if they're not willing to purchase that, then they're definitely not going to be willing to purchase a massive, probably even more expensive LEGO set of Bionicle, probably going to be system as well next year. And even if they were willing to devote new molds for it, I feel like if they were doing an anniversary set for Bionicle, they'd probably throw in some homage to the buildable figures, maybe even see if there's any CCBS molds left to do something with. That's probably not going to happen at all, because it's going to, one, cost them a lot more to make Bionicle fans happy to produce that set, because as they just saw, half of the Bionicle fan base only wants Construction, which is going to cost LEGO a ton to make the new molds back. But secondly, and more importantly, Castle fans just voted with their wallets today, and those Castle fans, myself included, I am a fan of LEGO Castle, made a strong sign to LEGO that we want LEGO Castle back and are willing to pay for it today, right now, a very expensive set. This was more expensive than the Bionicle Legend set, but we're willing to pay for it and make it sell out in 30 minutes. So to me, the 90th anniversary poll is basically locked. We got Pirates of Barracuda Bay the other year, we've gotten Benny's spaceship. I feel like it's going to be Castle that's going to take the win here. Previously, I thought it was going to be a big and strong, hard-fought battle between Bionicle and Classic Space. But at this point, Castle is doing really well, and I'd be surprised if it wasn't either Castle or Classic Space. And what does this mean for Bionicle and Construction in the future? Don't expect to see it anytime soon, because we had our chance right now to vote with our wallets to show LEGO that we want Bionicle, and that didn't happen. It failed. So it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. We won't be getting buildable action figures from LEGO probably anytime soon because of this, because of how abysmally this just performed. And I know that maybe this wasn't the best test of sample size. I know a ton of countries were left off of the shipping list. But the fact is, this was a fair environment for all of the themes to compete. It's not like Castle had an advantage over Bionicle in this one. They were on completely level playing field. So I know a lot of people have been saying, oh, well, it's a problem because it doesn't ship to my country. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of Castle fans in your country who are also pretty disappointed it doesn't ship. But when both of them were competing on a level playing field, fans just demonstrated that Castle is far, far more popular, at least at this stage. So I don't blame LEGO for not wanting to bring back Bionicle. The sales numbers are right there. G2 didn't do well. I have an argument that that's not necessarily the fans' fault. I think that was kind of a lot of problems that LEGO did when making G2. So I was willing to excuse that one, and I think LEGO was too. But if this Legend of Bionicle idea set that people were so angry about, yelling at LEGO for not producing, was put up for sale, and none of y'all bought it, that's a sign to LEGO that this isn't a viable IP in 2021, and likely will not be in the future. So I would not expect to see any Bionicle sets or even any Construction sets coming out in the near future, which is very sad and disappointing to hear, but that's kind of the fact of how this poll leaves me. Maybe I'm feeling a little too negative after being very disappointed after the results of this poll, but honestly, those are just my thoughts on exactly how I interpreted this, how I think that LEGO will interpret this, and how any smart businessman at LEGO can look at this and say, well, we shouldn't touch Bionicle again. I know this wasn't what people were hoping. I know a lot of Bionicle fans didn't want this because it's LEGO's system and not Construction, and I get that. But I also have to say that this was our one shot to show LEGO to vote with our wallets, saying that we want Bionicle back. And even if you didn't want this set as a system set, if this set did really well, that's a message to LEGO that, hey, maybe we should bring back Construction because it left such an impact on LEGO fans that they wanted to do this. Without that though, unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen. So this was a surprise to me. It probably is a surprise to many of you in the audience as well. Very sad to hear. But that's all from me today. Definitely let me know what you think of this in the comments below. I'm very interested to hear everyone's thoughts on this whole issue, on this whole matter, and exactly how this will turn out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully we'll have some better news about Bionicle soon, but I'm not exactly expecting anything. That being said, I just kind of want to wrap things up with the fact that there is a silver lining to this, because everyone who tried to purchase this set will be receiving digital instructions to build the model from existing elements at some point. I don't know when that will be. I will say the moment I receive those instructions and the parts list, I will be purchasing the parts to this immediately. I'll do a full review of it on my channel. Of course, it's not going to have all the stickers, so some details are going to be missing, but for all intents and purposes, you will be able to build this model if you want to. You can go to Bricklink or Lego Bricks and Pieces, probably especially do it on Bricks and Pieces because they're all currently available parts, and buy all of the parts this model requires to build it. So you can still own this model if you personally want to build it yourself. It's just kind of disappointing that in the grand scheme of things, it kind of sends a message to Lego that Bionicle isn't too viable today. At least from what we, the fans of original Bionicle, can do to continue keeping the spirit of the theme alive is to keep running canonization contests like TTV is doing, or keep reviewing old mocks, kind of like the fan and review series I'm doing, or just sharing our own mocks of Bionicles, sharing details about the lore, discussing, making fan art, making fan games, fan stories. It's basically up to the fan community now to keep Bionicle alive, because our one shot at making it back official with Lego has been done and gone. That's all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in to Duck Bricks. Again, super interested to hear your comments down below. Do you agree or disagree? It's all good. Definitely just want to engage in a conversation. So looking forward to hearing it, and thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.